Hello, my name is Gabrielle, and today we shall be talking about effective communication. So, we talked about effective communication in class, and as the book says, a lot of effective communication is between managers and employees. However, I think we could all benefit from more effective communication in our personal lives as well. But when it comes to effective communication, there are a couple of things that we can talk about. We have formal and informal effective communication. Formal meaning within a work environment, things such as memos, letters. Informal could just be saying hello in the hallway or writing a short email. As I mentioned, the informal and formal also fall into the verbal and written category of any kind of communication. And when it comes to communication, the reason why we say effective communication is mainly because it is very hard to achieve effective communication. There are many obstacles, some of which being cultural differences, background differences, different prejudices, assumptions, expectations, and probably the number one obstacle is emotion. And when it comes to a work environment, we usually don't think of emotion as playing key. However, as we all know, we're all human beings, therefore emotion does play key. As an example for this effective communication, I've done some research, and one of the articles that I would like to speak to you about is by a man named Richard Atkinson, who is an HR management consultant. And he wrote an interesting article about effective communication within a spa team environment, therefore a hospitality environment. And so he sort of spells out what are the keys to achieving effective communication within a team environment, such as a spa. And the number one thing he says is you need to build guidelines to achieve effective communication, or rather to achieve communication guidelines. So, for example, the team leader needs to sit down with the team and say, how would you like to communicate? What do you think are the steps to achieving effective communication? How can we become a better team? And one of the things is to have respect for one another as a team. Another is the whole concept of active listening, which is actually showing genuine empathy, concern, actually genuinely listening to the person, taking in what they are saying rather than thinking about, what you have to do the next day, or what you have to do in the next couple of minutes, how you want to get out of the conversation, anything like that. Actually listening to the person and showing concern and responding. I guess that's the number one thing, is responding, which actually shows the person that you are listening to them. So Mr. Atkinson went into the spa environment and said, pick out the steps of effective communication that you would like to have within your group environment, and establish them as sort of standards of good communication. So that's the number one thing he achieved. The number two would be resolving conflict. In any sort of environment, no matter formal, informal, whether the communication is good or it isn't, there will be times of conflict. And the team as a whole, with the help of the manager, will have to resolve this conflict. So what are the steps to resolving conflict? And much like the effective communication, the team lead has to take the responsibility and actually set the guidelines for resolving the conflict, a step-by-step of, we're going to openly talk about this, whatever the conflict is. We're going to resolve it. If we can't resolve it, maybe some disciplinary actions will take place. But it's not only talking about the conflict that arises from any sort of really heated discussions. It's conflict that arises, period, whether you don't like a person or whether you can't get along with someone within the team. It affects the whole team. It affects the productivity of the team. So, that's the number 2 thing that Dr. Atkinson said, or Mr. Atkinson rather. And in the end, it's all about showing respect to the other person, and it's all about listening, and it's all about having transparency within your communication in order for you to achieve honest, effective communication within a team environment, whether it be within a team environment, work environment, personal environment. I think these are all lessons we can take away from this. And in the end, the one thing is, when it comes to the work environment, is to create a better work environment, a more successful team, in the end, a more productive business, whatever the business may be. So I hope we all learned something today or took some key notes away from it. Like I said, I think, yes, it does apply to management. It does apply to the business, hospitality, workforce. But more than anything, I think it applies to any of our lives, in any of our work dealings or personal life or anything like that. So thank you for listening today, and yeah, see you in class. Bye.